Homelessness has always been an issue that humanity has faced, ranging from locally in the city of Seattle to the entirety of the world. Due to the stigmas around homelessness, as well as a lack of resources for the homeless, the problem continues to get worse and worse with no solution in sight. Seattle is currently ranked third highest among cities in the US with the largest homeless population, with a count of approximately 11,000 homeless people every night. This is especially concerning as Seattle is a relatively small city when compared to others like Los Angeles and New York, which have the two highest homeless populations. Homelessness has existed since the beginning of humanity, from civilizations such as the Indus Valley Civilization, ancient Rome, and more. It is believed that homelessness first started in America as early as 1640 during the colonial period. The issue progressively worsened with the arrival of the American Revolution and again throughout America's short but tumultuous history of economic depressions and wars, as well as the industrial era that left many injured and unable to work. Homelessness first came to the West Coast with people riding the rails of the Transcontinental Railroad in order to find work. The gap between the incomes of the rich and poor shrunk drastically due to an economic boom caused by the opening of jobs during the Second World War. However, in the 1970s, the tides turned once again, bringing wages down in what came to be known as the Great U-Turn, and continued to get worse, so that by 1983, over 15% of Americans were living below the poverty line. In Los Angeles, 75,000 manufacturing jobs were lost between 1978 and 1982. It is estimated that over 150 million people around the world suffer from outright homelessness, and the organization Habitat for Humanity estimates as of 2016 that 1.6 billion or 21% of people worldwide are living in inadequate shelter. This comes out to 17 out of every 10,000 people globally experiencing outright homelessness. In Seattle, this number is as high as 56 out of 10,000. In the United States alone, 552,830 people experience homelessness on any given night. Many years have passed since homelessness first became prevalent, and a question many may ask is why the problem hasn't yet been solved but rather grown, experiencing one of its largest booms in the last 5 years. The answer to this question hails to how the billions of dollars spent behind solving this problem is spent. Little of the money is actually spent on helping people get the resources they need to get out of homelessness, as the private companies take the same plans that don't work, change a few words, and present them again in order to get more government contracts and make more profits for themselves. The money that goes to other groups is scattered, and due to the lack of organized approach, doesn't usually make much of a difference. Currently, various states have been attempting to criminalize homelessness. That shows how the public and the government is more willing to pay almost $5,000 per inmate every month than they are to provide subsidized housing for much cheaper than that. During a chat with the Coalition for the Homeless with a panel for various experts on the causes of the record increase in homelessness, it was mentioned that in the state of New York, 19,000 more individuals enter homelessness than exit every year. And others among the board attribute the losses to a steady erosion in entitlement programs, including but not limited to Social Security and disability, welfare, general relief, and subsidized housing. There are many stigmas associated with homelessness. One of them is that homeless people are uneducated. It's a common belief that people become homeless as a result of not having a job due to a lack of education. Other common stigmas associated with homelessness include that it is caused by too much alcohol or drugs. Overall, homeless people are looked down upon as inferior and as the root of their own problems, when in reality there are many homeless people who had no control over their circumstances, and these false impressions that the public is led to believe only adds to their problem. A homeless man named Luke, who declined to provide his last name, explains the myths and stigmas that he hears on a daily basis. He states that people say, "Get a job," as many have told him before. Luke continues saying, "Okay, well, if I had somewhere to rest my head, where my stuff wasn't stolen, where I didn't have to worry about blankets, where I didn't have to worry about food, I might be able to get a job." Another man, Roger Wade, experienced homelessness for over 15 years. When speaking about societal acceptance, he addressed many stereotypes and stated, "Men who are homeless are often seen as freeloaders, shiftless, entitlement seekers, drunks, or drug addicts by mainstream American society." Roger Wade's perspective of homelessness was from a sober and drug-free point of view, which goes to show that these stereotypes and stigmas are mostly untrue. Many stigmas surrounding homelessness may be true in some cases, but are largely untrue and used to describe the majority of the homeless population. Several reports have shown that people become addicted to drugs and alcohol after they become homeless, which goes to show that it isn't the actual cause of their homelessness. A report explains that the reason that such a disproportionate amount of homeless people turn to substance abuse is because homeless people turn to drugs and alcohol to remove themselves from the harsh realities of living on the streets. Along with this, homeless people are also commonly associated with not being educated, but in many circumstances, not having a job with a high enough salary to pay rent or not having the resources to help treat a physical or mental disability can often have a greater chance of leading to homelessness than being uneducated. In the cases that they did drop out of schooling early, it is more likely to take care of family and provide for the needs of parents and siblings than it is for simply being lazy. Some experts suggest that a home stability support plan is the best solution available to end homelessness. The plan seeks to provide rent supplements or money to help pay off rent to those facing eviction or homelessness, which costs significantly less than temporary housing. On the other hand, organizations such as the National Alliance to End Homelessness and the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness believe in rapid rehousing, which is designed to help the homeless quickly return to permanent housing. However, with the number of homeless people in America increasing every year since 2014, most agree that housing alone will not be enough to end homelessness. Some say that the homeless should first be humanized and that racism, social stigma, and a lack of belonging and freedom result in unstable housing. Among proposals to create stable housing suggested by outside resources, the most popular is implementing programs such as job training, child care, counseling services, and housing assistance for the vulnerable. Though the fight against homelessness has seemed hopeless many times in the past, many court cases and a lot of legislation has been passed that have allowed the homeless to make gains in their fight. In December 2019, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against a law making it a crime to sleep in public places when homeless shelter space is unavailable, which according to the appeals court is due to the fact that the law violated part of the Constitution's 8th Amendment, which states that a state may not criminalize conduct that is an unavoidable consequence of being homeless. This Supreme Court case has set a precedent when it comes to laws criminalizing the actions of homeless people, as many homeless people have been fined for littering, loitering, and a host of other petty crimes that are an unavoidable byproduct of living on the streets. The Homeless Bill of Rights refers to another piece of legislation protecting civil and human rights of homeless people. These laws enforce the idea that homeless people have equal rights to medical care, voting, opportunities for employment, and more. Over 120 organizations in 5 different states show support for these Bill of Rights, and it is law in 3 states and under consideration by an abundance of others. In the future, the city of Seattle will make investments towards affordable housing. The Seattle Housing Levy is set to provide a steady source of $30 million per year for new affordable housing. Many new shelters are being built to help combat homelessness, and housing support programs are also being put into place, including federal housing assistance and permanent supportive housing, which provide housing vouchers and vital support for people with serious conditions. The Coalition for the Homeless discussed ways to reduce homelessness and work towards providing stable housing, proposing various plans that could help phase out homelessness definitively in just 10 years. These plans include the Home Stability Support Plan as well as many others, but the HSS plan is highly anticipated, as an assembly member on the panel has calculated that with the program in place for just 10 years, the number of children and families in shelters will drop by a remarkable 80%, and the number of individual adults will drop by 40%. Along with this, they discussed many of the stigmas and the problems with treating them rather than the root cause. They established that things like achieving sobriety or providing education are treatments for the symptoms of homelessness. The homeless only need this because they've been dumped on the street with virtually no aid and no way out. Thankfully, organizations such as the Coalition for the Homeless and many others are continuously working towards improvement. While there are many organizations and individuals working towards ending homelessness, nothing can be done until the negative shroud that clouds people's view of homelessness is removed. Though the myths and stigmas surrounding the homeless have no direct perverse effects to the population at large, the myths and misinformation obscures our judgment and affects how we treat those less fortunate than us. People refuse to give the homeless help or even meet their eyes, as they believe they may spend the money they give them on drugs rather than food. Instead of helping this population, people are perceiving a false image of the homeless because of myths that we've been led to believe. Many organizations, individuals, and officials are working towards solving this global crisis. We as the public can help by donating to nonprofits, volunteering, humanizing the homeless, and spreading awareness of this issue. We must remember that all that separates us from those that are homeless is circumstance.